Hi, this is Megan Chapman, and this is the Tuesday Studio Video Visit. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a lot to say, and we'll see if I can manage to say it all. I'm quite worn out, actually. So this past weekend was Art Walk Porty. It was the Artists Bookmakers Market, and I participated on Saturday and Sunday in Portobello, Edinburgh. And it was incredible. It was really amazing. I took my artist books, or just my books, my paintings in books. I took them with me, and I am surrounded by them now here on my table in my studio. I had them out on a table. If you look at my page often, you probably saw the photos of, there was a wonderful wooden table there, and it's just such a beautiful venue. And I was in two different rooms, so I got to mix it up. One day it looked one way, and the next it looked a little bit different. And it was just a very wonderful 2 days. And it really solidified a lot of things that I think about art, and I think about this project, and I think about painting, and I've been writing about it and trying to kind of put it all into words and trying to figure out next steps, how to take this project to maybe another level. It's very unusual for me to be sitting down when I talk about art or sitting down when I'm doing the Tuesday Studio Video Visit, but I thought I'd give it a whirl today. So basically, when people walked in, if you've seen the photos, they walked into this kind of messy pile of books, all on a wooden table. All the books were sort of just overlapping each other. There were different areas where maybe the hardback books were leaning up on, either the fireplace mantle or a different piece of furniture. And then the main table had, sort of these bigger books overlapping. And then I was behind the table, and I was just chatting with people as they came about, telling them about my project. And that's, you've heard bits and pieces about my project, but I thought I'd do it again. For those folks that are further afield or who didn't make it, I'm also doing this to help solidify my thoughts and ideas about the project in order to help me with the writing about the project. So here it goes. It's probably going to be a long one. It's already 3 minutes, and I haven't even really gotten to the meat of the project here. And some of this will be repetitive, but it's art, so you get to enjoy it. So basically what I was saying is that this project was born and ended 20 years ago. These are all brand new pieces that I've done in the past year, because I knew the 20th anniversary of this project, which was always just called Books, that the 20th anniversary of this project was coming up this past summer, so I wanted to do something to mark the occasion. Luckily for me, the Artist Bookmaker Market came up, and I entered to be in the show, and my work was chosen for the show. And so it was sort of, for me, it was a wonderful anniversary celebration. So the project began and started my final year of art school at the University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon, on the west coast of the United States. I was in the BFA program studying painting and drawing. And in that last year, you're sort of meant to focus in order to focus on a body of work in order to prepare to graduate in what's called your terminal project or your terminal exhibition. While my studio mates were creating these huge, glossy abstract paintings and other large abstract, or not always abstract, large paintings in one form or another, I didn't really want to have anything to do with that. I rebelled against that concept of art, that art is large-scale abstract works on a gallery wall, or that art is large, or that it's glossy, or it's, void of interaction, and that art was something special, that art was something separate from the viewer, that art was something that cost a lot of money to produce, or at least required some finer materials, you know, your best oils and canvases, whether you stretched them or you got them stretched. Of course, in art school, we were all stretching our own. All of this stuff for me, when I was an art student, took away from the immediacy of making art. I didn't like stretching canvas. It was hard. It took time. I needed assistance. I had to measure. I had to cut wood. I had to do all these things when I just eagerly wanted to get the paint on the substrate. I just wanted to make my art. So for me, all of these sort of ideas, and as well as my aesthetic sense, led me to go around to, there were a couple of old bookstores in Eugene, Smith Family Books, and there were 2 different locations, and they each had a bin, a free bin, and I would go to their free bin and I would select different types of books. They were always usually hardback books, and they were slightly older. They were discarded because for some reason or another they were now seen without value. Many of them, strangely enough, were, you know, quite, well, not strangely, that's why they were discarded, but like medical text, veterinarian text, just obscure books that for some reason or another, they were now without merit. They were passing on into the free book bin in the sky. So I took those books and I would tape them up and stitch them up and bind them up and glue them up, throw them in mud puddles, warp them, and basically create something quite almost, you weren't sure if you really wanted to touch it. Because that's sort of one of my aesthetics, is I like things that are not perfect. I've had series before, I like the broken things best, things like that. I like the damaged spines of books. I think they are art in their own right. I like seeing this tape just on the cover. I like that this page has a hole already in it and that it's torn and ripped. So this is my aesthetic in general. So I painted these abstract paintings, I told stories, I manufactured identities. There was a bit of humor involved, there was a bit of theater involved, there was a bit of, you know, recycling, upcycling, giving discarded materials a second lease on life, now being reimagined as fine art, as paintings. So that's where the project was born, and in order to encourage people to touch the books, I had to create an atmosphere for that to just happen naturally. So what I did 20 years ago was I put a sofa in the gallery there at the university, and some end tables and plants and family pictures, and there's music playing and just a general relaxed atmosphere. So normally we have a heightened atmosphere in a gallery. Now I've kind of taken it down a notch. It looks like your living room, and not even a particularly nice one, just your average living room. And then I put all my books on a coffee table in front of the sofa, which I hoped would be enough to make people slow down, make people sit down, and make people flip through the books. And magically and thankfully, that's what happened. So people would be sitting in the gallery looking at the books. And the idea, again, still 20 years later, is that same sort of comfort, taking it all down a notch and enabling the viewer to spend quality time with art. It's estimated, I think there's been several studies reported that I think people spend about an average of 17 to 25 seconds looking at art when it's up on a gallery wall. And so by giving them something to hold and put in their hands, that immediately slows you down. You know that you can't absorb an entire book in 23 seconds or even 3 minutes. You're going to sit down, you're going to stop what you're doing, you're going to focus, and you're going to read. The same goes for if I put art in these books. You're going to slow down, you're going to treat them like a book. You're going to hold them. You're going to try to read and absorb them. In my world, this painting is pretty much all you need to know about this book. I've sealed off bits of it. You can no longer access this. This is taped and glued shut. That creates a little frustration, a little tension, and a little curiosity. This is it. This is all you get in this book. There's a piece torn here. There's some words on top. It's very tactile. This is going to slow you down and you're going to look at this art. I also have a very strong belief in the fact that art is for everybody. If you followed my page long enough or read my blog long enough or seen my studio sales, you'll know that that's how I feel. That I believe everyone deserves to live with art. I believe everyone deserves to have a profound experience of art. And this is one way of getting that experience to different groups of people. Some people, unfortunately, feel quite intimidated when they go into a nice commercial fine art gallery or museum. Some people, unfortunately, feel like that stuff is in there and it's not meant for me. That's art. I don't understand it. I somehow am not qualified to look at it. I don't understand what it's trying to say to me. Art makes me feel stupid. I need to be of a different class, of a different race, of a different socioeconomic group, or to have a different type of education, or simply a different type of being, a different type of brain to really understand art. Therefore, since I, for some reason or another, believe I do not have those things, I now think that all of art is not for me, or big chunks of art is not for me. Music might be for me because it's exposure. We hear it on the radio all the time. Books might be for me because we have libraries and we see them fundamentally. Films, television, even maybe theater might be for me. But for some reason, paintings and other forms of art that you would normally find in a museum or gallery seems a little bit stilted, off limits, and higher than many people. So my goal with this project is to take those types of people, but to take all people, but to give them a personal experience with art. If I take a painting, if I take a fine art painting that you could see in a fine art gallery, behind glass, behind a frame, up high, on a wall, over you, in perhaps a stilted environment. If I take that same information, that same painting, and I put it in an old book, just a regular old book, that's the back, and that viewer then gets to hold it, they get to touch it, they get to smell it if they want, and they now are over the art. The viewer is now dominating something that was held up to some other higher standard. And now they are intimately engaged with the art. They are slowing down, they are feeling the weight of it, they are looking at it, they are seeing that this is just art and it's just in an old book. By no means am I saying it's just art, but at the same time, because for me, art is everything. Art is life-saving and life-changing. Art is inspiration. Art is truly everything for me. But at the same time, on the same flip side of that, it is just art. It is just materials on a substance. It is just the ideas and preferences of one artist's mind and vision put down on something. And this happens to be a book. At the most basic level, most people have experiences with picture books. So if they're not avid readers, they might be intimidated by a book to a wee bit, but they know photography books, they know picture books from childhood. So now I've just put something that typically is elevated on a gallery wall, and I've put it in the palm of their hands. This changes the dynamic. This changes how they view art. I'm also playing with the entire concept that we have all been trained, because art is up here and fragile, that we've all been trained to put our hands in our pockets, to put our hands behind our backs, to stand behind a velvet rope, to stand behind a metal bar, to stand behind a taped line on the floor, to be at a respectful, quiet distance from art. When I'm standing behind a book, behind a table full of books, and people are holding these books, they're talking, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're putting one down immediately and picking up a different one, they're reading sometimes the words that I have written in the book. For instance, this book says, "This message rode on the wind, it rode on the sea too, it missed you by seconds, and so everything is different now." So they're having a full experience. And then I'm also leaving bits and pieces of the book as they were. This is a happy anniversary, January 21st, 1955 from, and I can't read the person's name anymore. So we're also getting a bit of the history of the previous owner of the book, something quite sweet about a dedication. And now we've got this modern art. We've got some words that I've written to take you somewhere else other than what this book was intending. This is actually a book on dogs. You know, so it's a completely different experience, and it disarms the viewer. And I've seen this happen now a couple of different times with different groups, different cultures, 20 years later. And it was so exciting for me as the artist to witness people enjoying these tactile books. So it's art, and then you close it up. You could put it on a bookshelf. You can put it on your table. Many of them are sculptural. You can put it on your bookshelf. You can even frame it if you want to. But for me, the biggest part about this project is to get people interacting with art in a different way, to take down some barriers, to help them have a different understanding of art. And then my belief too is that then everyone who's then touched these books becomes part of the book, becomes part of the memory of the book, becomes part of just the fabric of the book. So the previous owner, the subject, the artist, the viewer, everything's there's a hornet. Everything comes together to create a new story. And then you can walk away and know that you've had a different experience with art. This video is getting quite long, and I could talk more about it. There's some points that I haven't crossed yet, and like I said, there are things that I'm writing about right now in relation to this work. I would really like to take this work to different types of schools. I would like to take this work to different sorts of maybe arts institutions. I can see this work sort of traveling and having a different kind of life than the work that you would just see in a gallery. I can see many different applications for a body of work like this. And obviously, I think you can tell I'm quite passionate about this project. And that was one of the reasons I was curious about doing it 20 years later, because there's the passion that you feel when you're an art student in your 20s, and then there's a passion you feel when you've been an artist for 20 years in your late 40s. The passion is still right there. The passion is maybe bigger than ever, because I have had the experience of showing art in traditional galleries. I have seen people put their hands in their pockets and keep a safe distance and not really know what to say, not know how to even interact with the art. And everything that happened this past weekend was just so brilliant. The people become just as big of a part of the art, and my experience of making it. It just changes everything. It just all my favorite parts of being an artist, the communication, community, exposure, changing people's ideas about art, making things accessible, as well as presenting abstract modern art. All of it comes together in this one project. So it was incredibly exciting for me to present the books over this weekend. I don't think you've seen the last of the books, so if you've got any ideas about where these books could travel next or show, or if you're an educator and you'd like these books to come to you, and if you'd like me to guide students or people through the experience of picking up this art, you know, let's get in touch, because I think this art has a lot of different applications for a lot of different groups of people, old, young, art lovers, and people who have no experience in art as well, or with art as well. So that's the Tuesday Studio video visit on a Thursday. I hope you're well, happy, and inspired wherever you are. I hope you're creating something that is exciting and challenging and a little bit scary, but gives you lots of new ideas and things to think about, because that's what art is really all about. So again, I know this has been a long one. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next week, thank you. Bye.